Capturing Vuhledar unlikely to give Russians significant operational advantage. German Foreign Minister outlines key points for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, and how Putin is lying about Ukraine and does not want real peace. The latest news next. Russian forces have reached the outskirts of Vuhledar in the Donetsk region. However, this is unlikely to provide them with any significant operational advantage for further offensive operations in the western part of the region, according to the Institute for the Study of War. Russian forces are also attempting to advance on the northeastern flank of Vuhledar through Vodana and the southwestern flank through Prechystovka, likely aiming to encircle the Ukrainian forces in Vuhledar and force them to retreat. Russian forces may manage to capture all of Vuhledar, but how quickly or easily they can achieve this will likely depend in part on the decisions made by Ukrainian forces. Should Ukrainian forces decide to defend Vuhledar, the occupiers may face difficulties in fighting for a settlement that Ukraine has fortified over the past 2 years. If the Russians do not seize the settlement relatively quickly, their maneuver along the flanks of Vuhledar could also be hampered by the onset of autumn rains, according to ISW. Nevertheless, a potential Russian capture of Vuhledar is unlikely to radically alter the course of offensive operations in the western Donetsk region, according to analysts at the institute. They note that Vuhledar is not a particularly important logistical hub, as Russian forces already control most of the main roads leading to it. Capturing the settlement will not immediately grant Russian forces access to a new road, nor will it cut off Ukrainian forces from a road crucial for their logistical support. A potential Russian capture of Vuhledar will also not necessarily provide Russian forces with a favorable position for launching further offensive operations in other parts of the western Donetsk region. ISW analyst added. It should be recalled that Vuhledar, which was previously advantageous for defense due to its elevated position, has suffered significant damage after Russian active attacks with guided aerial bombs. As a result, Russians managed to advance to the flanks of Ukrainian defenses. Europe High Representative for Foreign Affairs Josep Borrell has stated that Ukrainians' surrender and its transformation into a second Belarus is not the quickest way to end the war, reported by European Pravda with reference to Borrell's statement following a UN Security Council meeting. Quote, "I have heard some peace lovers saying that they love peace and they want peace. They love peace, me too. Europe too, and Ukrainians want peace more than anyone else. If someone is willing peace, it's certainly the Ukrainians, who are suffering the consequences. The quickest way of ending the war is the withdrawal of Russian troops. Russia withdraws troops and the war will end." About details, Borrell added that these so-called peace lovers do not mention this fastest way because they believe the quickest way to end the war is Ukrainian surrender. Borrell said, "And yes, without our support, Ukraine will have had to surrender. We don't want this way of ending the war. We don't want Ukraine surrounding and losing its national identity, freedom and territory and becoming a second Belarus." Borrell emphasized that peace is not about subjugation, surrender or occupation, therefore a lasting peace is required. Borrell also added that military support for Ukraine does not exclude the search for peaceful solutions, but stressed that the stronger Ukraine is militarily, the stronger its negotiating position will be. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has outlined the key points for potential peace negotiations to end Russia's aggression against Ukraine, reported by Baerbock at the UN Security Council meeting in New York, as reported by European Pravda, citing German newspaper Der Spiegel. About details, peace means that Ukrainians' existence as a free and independent country is guaranteed. It means security guarantees, Baerbock stated. On one hand, she said, "We are very grateful that more and more of our partners around the world are thinking about how this war can be ended. We need that. We need an end to this war," Baerbock emphasized. At the same time, she stressed that this cannot mean standing idly by while there is no end to the war in sight and Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin has not come to the negotiation table. We should not simply stand by and watch as Russia destroys the rest of Ukraine, she said. She also addressed the issue of Russia abducting Ukrainian children. Baerbock declared, "Russia has been committing these crimes for 923 days now, abducting and torturing children for 923 days. "We will not rest until the children are back with their families." Addressing Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia, Baerbock said, "You can't deceive yourselves. The strongest man in your country can hide behind the teenage girls he has abducted, but you can't fool the world." U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has stated that Kremlin leader, dictator Vladimir Putin is continuing to lie when he claims that the Ukrainian people have no identity of their own and that Putin is uninterested in true peace. Reported by Blinken at the meeting of the UN Security Council as reported by European Pravda. Quote, "Putin continues to claim falsely that Ukraine is not a real state. He continues to deny that the Ukrainian people have their own identity. In Putin's eyes, the Ukrainian people, like Ukraine itself, do not exist." He recalled that Ukraine has repeatedly stated that diplomacy is the only way to end this war and that it is ready to negotiate, but the head of the Kremlin does not want this. Blinken recalled, Putin, on the other hand, has no interest in such a peace, recently declaring that Russia would return to the negotiating table only when Ukraine withdraws its troops from Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia regions. In other words, when Ukraine withdraws from its own territory. He stressed that the world must support Ukraine's call for a just and lasting peace to end Russia's war of aggression. Blinken also noted that some countries at the UN Security Council meeting had put forward their proposals, some of which did not mention the UN Charter or its principles, did not mention the difference between the aggressor and the victim, and called on all parties to de-escalate. Blinken concluded a proposal along these lines would reward Putin's aggression, allow him to rest, rearm, reinvade Ukraine as he has done time and again. It would also embolden would-be aggressors everywhere around the world. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with President of Turkey Recep Tayyip Erdoğan to discuss strengthening trade and economic cooperation as well as Ukraine's reconstruction, according to the Ukrainian President's telegram and the Presidential Office of Ukraine. Zelenskyy emphasized, "We focused on boosting bilateral trade, investments and economic cooperation along with the involvement of Turkish companies in Ukraine's rebuilding efforts." Additionally, the leaders held detailed talks on implementing the peace formula, stressing the importance of ensuring freedom of navigation in the Black Sea and Turkey's key role in advancing the corresponding provision of the formula on food security. During the meeting, Zelenskyy also extended an invitation to Erdoğan to visit Ukraine. It should be noted that in New York, President Zelenskyy also met with Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob. During their discussions, the leaders discussed the implementation of the peace formula. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.